Hello, welcome to another episode of With Enough Prep Time. I am the Nerd Man, and today I'm going to be hosting Hot Takes Tuesday, new concept I've come up with for a series of vlogs where I discuss my hot takes on cinematic history, on things that are kind of common views of people. When it comes to cinema, comic book movies, culture, or anything like that. And I'm going to do my hot take on it, where I disagree with the general consensus. So today, my hot take is going to be Katy Holmes was better than Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel Dawes. Maggie Gyllenhaal was better than Katy Holmes as Rachel Dawes in the Nolan Batman series. So just to give you a kind of history of, and before I stop, please like, comment, subscribe. Just to give you a kind of history of this, the Nolan trilogy is some of my favorite Batman movies. I've actually even recently become a convert to the fact that I was possibly wrong. I'll have to watch it one more time, but I was possibly wrong about The Dark Knight Rises, and it may well be one of the finest movies, comic book movies of all time as well, whereas I didn't have it that high before. So I may have been proven wrong on that. I have to watch it one more time. I was in a particularly good mood when I watched it last time. Maybe it impacted how much I enjoyed it. And in fact, Bane's plan to take over the city was actually as stupid as I thought it was the first time. But that aside, I love Batman Begins. Batman Begins, for me, is one of the most underrated comic book movies of all time. I also love The Dark Knight, but I don't think it's overrated in any sense of the word. But I do think that the best thing about The Dark Knight is this, and I think this is universally accepted, is the performance, the central performance of the Joker, which was so outstanding by Heath Ledger that it deserved him an Oscar nomination, even if it was posthumously, pardon me, forgetting words. And both movies I love, and I think I may have watched Batman Begins because it is my favourite of the trilogy, actually. I think it's got the tightest script. I think from beginning to end, the flow of it, the twist, everything fits together in a puzzle in that movie. I only have one criticism about that movie, which is I loved Cillian Murphy as the Scarecrow, and I don't think he had a good enough final battle, because I don't think they knew how good Cillian Murphy was going to be in that role. So I think he could have had a much more exciting, final confrontation with the Batman, and that movie would be, like The Dark Knight, a masterpiece of comic book film making. But one of the big controversies of the Nolan trilogy is the Rachel Dawes character. Originally played by Katy Holmes, who was, at the time an up and coming actress, who obviously gained fame by being in a somewhat polarizing TV show. I think the TV show was pretty great, but a somewhat polarizing TV show in the same way that Twilight is quite polarizing, i.e., a lot of men don't like it, but she was part of a show called Dawson's Creek in the 90s. This impacted how people viewed her because people really saw her as a TV actress. They didn't really see her, as of yet, as a movie star. Okay, so there was that was that was hindering her. And in terms of the films she had been in, again, up until then, she had really been in a lot of teen movies. Not straying, even though she was playing, she was showing some versatility. It was still versatility within that teenage, kind of genre of kind of films of romantic comedies and, these kind of films. Although I thought she had some particularly good roles in films like Go, if you ever gonna want to go and watch that. That I would describe as if Tarantino met like some teenage high school movie. So it's pretty much a Tarantino-esque high school dropout movie, and she's in it. She plays a very, very good role in that. But she's also very, very good in a lot of other movies throughout that period. But again, they weren't serious, serious big movie kind of films. The second kind of problem that Katy Hopkins, I was going to say, Katy Holmes was having at that time was that she was in fact married to Tom Cruise. And Tom Cruise had seemed like he, at that period of time, when Batman Begins came out and shortly after, had lost his mind. He was jumping on chairs and spouting off about Scientology and how everyone should join it and join them on their spaceship where they can, take in their films or whatever they call. I can't remember what the thing that the Scientologists measure how happy one is, but all of that was happening around her career at the time. And it was impacting the way people were viewing her work. So I just wanted to give that as a context to the whole, of her, of how she was viewed within Batman Begins. Then you had Maggie Gyllenhaal, excellent actress. Also coming from a very, very prestigious family, cinematic family, including a very, very great director in Hollywood, who was responsible for some great films. I can't put my finger on exactly what it was, but by all means, go and look him up on IMDb. But her father is a very, very good director, responsible for some, I think it was some very good TV or very good cinema, I'm not sure. But I know I've seen a few of them and was very impressed by it. And then, of course, Jake Gyllenhaal, who is a fantastic, one of the greatest actors of his generation. And she comes from good pedigree, and she herself is a great actress in her own right. Very good at playing the very spunky, some girls with a bit of attitude, a little bit of a bad girl kind of, vibe to her. And, that is what she, that is her wheelhouse of where, if you're looking for somebody with a little bit of an edge to them as a woman, Maggie Gyllenhaal is absolutely fantastic. So that sets up the scene in Fair Verona, where we lay our, ground. So what happened? Batman Begins comes out, and everyone sees the film, and it's fantastic. It, it causes a big ripple effect throughout cinema. A lot of people say, the X-Men is responsible for, the resurgence in superhero cinema. Some say it was Spider-Man, Raimi's Spider-Man. This was responsible for the resurgence. Who knows why Batman Begins was made? It may well have been because of the X-Men and Raimi's Spider-Man. But one thing I will tell you, and I promise you this to be the case, absolutely true. The one movie that is responsible most of all for the whole renaissance of comic book cinema is Batman Begins. That is where it started. That is where general audiences, not just people who were into comic books, or who were into Saturday morning cartoons, but general audiences began to see cinema, comic book film cinema as cool. Because what happened is that cliffhanger at the end of Batman Begins reminded everyone of Jack Nicholson's performance in the original Batman, and they loved this new universe that Nolan had set up, and they were thinking, how in the hell are you going to bring something as fantastical as the Joker to this realistic, down to earth, Batman universe? Even I was shocked. I never thought of it. While I was watching this Batman Begins movie, thinking, oh, it would be cool if the Joker was in this, or, but hey, you can't. I get it. Batman versus gangsters, Batman versus Ra's al Ghul, cool. Batman versus this Scarecrow fella's pretty scary. Yeah, I get it. Shit! They're going to bring the Joker into this? That was the ripple effect that broke the camel's back. It was the straw. It was, everything. Okay? And that created the boom where, nobody was like, putting up their nose at comic book cinema anymore. It was Batman Begins, and that scene at the end, which made The Dark Knight $1 billion. If that scene had not been at the end of that movie, if they hadn't have had that scene right at the end of Batman Begins, where he says the Joker is gonna be the next villain in the sequel to this movie, Batman Begins, 1, may have never got a sequel. 2, Batman Begins would have been considered a commercial failure, I think, to a certain degree. Well, certainly not massively profitable. 3, you wouldn't, all the speculation as to who was going to play the Joker. At the time, people were like, it's going to be Sean Penn. There was a lot of people saying Sean Penn was going to be the guy, and Sean Penn was big then. This was around Milk time, Sean Penn. Okay? So everyone was excited. Then they drop Heath Ledger. Massive bomb. What the hell? Heath Ledger? Of all the Brokeback Mountain? Heath Ledger? Why? Okay, you had all these people that people wanted to see as the Joker, speculation as to who the Joker was going to be, and now everyone has to see this movie because Heath Ledger is going to be the Joker. How is he going to compare to Jack Nicholson? Okay, so that was the kind of atmosphere that was going on at the time. Nothing had been seen like this since the first Batman movie. Yeah, or since Superman back in the 70s. I'm pretty sure Superman had the same kind of impact, social impact, where it was okay for people to be into the funny books in general. Everyone was going to see the Superman movie. Everyone was seeing the Batman 89 movie. It was just okay to watch comic book movies, and everybody to watch the 89 and then the Penguin Batman movie. But imagine that times 1,000 is what happened with the Nolan verse. And so everyone loved Batman Begins. Not much complaints about it. But one thing that people were complaining about was they found Katy Holmes annoying in the movie. And I used to watch it, hear people say this, and this is before The Dark Knight came out, and I used to hear people say this, and I'd be like, I don't really know what the problem is here, but okay, I mean, if you want to recast her, fine. She wasn't the best part of the movie, but she was a good part of the movie. I enjoyed her performance. I enjoyed her being along with Alfred, the moral kind of backbone to the development of Bruce Wayne into being the Batman. She was the moral center of that movie. And I love that scene where she slaps him in the car. She's like, how dare you? Your parents would be ashamed of you. Great scene. I think she really, like, she's acting with a heavyweight. Like, like Christian Bale, and she's there with him. And when she's supposed to be funny and when she's supposed to be sweet, she was, and yet she was, a little bit of a damsel in distress. But also she, people talk about females, doing it for themselves. There was a little separate side movie within the Batman Begins where she was kind of like the female, the kind of female horror, the scream, the scream queen, right? Like, in the film like Scream, you have in the beginning the girl who's running through the house and she's screaming, she was kind of like the scream queen at the center of that movie because it was all about fear. Right, and you had the Scarecrow going after her in a completely terrifying fashion, where she's losing her mind from this from this fear toxin, and then she's exposed to it again at the end of the movie. But the point is, she overcomes the Scarecrow as the obstacle to herself. So she wasn't exactly just a damsel in distress, and I think Katy Holmes played that whole thing very, very well. She only had one weak scene in the whole film, and that weak scene was right at the end of the movie where there's supposed to be the first kiss between them, and she says to Bruce, "Oh, this is your real face. This is the face that the enemies of you will fear," or whatever. And until you're over being the Batman, I can't be with you, or something like that, right? Which was completely a weird way to end it. But this Rachel Dawes was a nice addition to the Batman mythos, and I liked her. She was, a lawyer. She was principled. She was a bit naive. She she's the one who believed in law and order, and things should go through a due process and everything like that, and showing Bruce Wayne the kind of morality of and giving him a bit of optimism in the world, that there are still good people who believe in the system, who continue to exist. And that was her role in the film. And not only do I think it was played well, I think it was particularly well casted to Katy Holmes, who's very, very skillful at playing those kind of characters. I mean, if you even see her work before in something like in something like Dawson's Creek, that's who she is. That's who Joey Potter was. She was the nice girl next door who believed in the system and who did all the right things and played by the rules, and so she was particularly well suited to that role, and I believed it, and she was beautiful as well, in a way that I believe Bruce Wayne would really have the hots for her. Enter Maggie Gyllenhaal after all the complaints, and then Katy Holmes unfortunately decides to opt out of the sequel. I don't know if it was people were saying that she should leave, or if she actually wanted to leave herself. But in the end, she left. She left and was taken over by Maggie Gyllenhaal. Now, this to me is not only a bad replacement on the level of when in Silence of the Lambs, where they replaced the lead actress in Silence of the Lambs in the sequel Hannibal. It was on that level of bad. It was so jarring, the difference between the two types of actress. I'm not saying Katy Holmes could not have been replaced in that role. Maybe she could have. But certainly they picked a diametrically opposite type of actress to play the role, and then they took away some of the subtlety and beauty of the relationship that her and Bruce had. And effectively, because it was so pivotal, her role in The Dark Knight, the whole emotional current of The Dark Knight, which was, based on the Joker essentially killing Rachel Dawes, right? That was going to be the worst possible thing that the Joker does in this movie. And it has no impact because you don't care about this Rachel Dawes. One, she's way too sassy. Way too sassy. So, gone is the kind of innocent naivety of the Katy Holmes character, and in comes sassy boots Maggie Gyllenhaal, who's joking with her boyfriend about him potentially getting shot, and that just shows he's doing his job properly. The fact is that Maggie Gyllenhaal was much better suited to playing Catwoman than she was to playing this character that everyone liked the relationship between her and Bruce. And, it would have been devastating, absolutely devastating to see her die at the hands of the Joker in the second movie. It ruined that part of the movie. People don't realize it. But when you think about it, were you really that emotionally... Did you really care when Rachel Dawes died? Did you really care when she was in peril, when the Joker was putting her in peril in the movie? Did you really care when she was saying, I don't want to go back to you, Bruce, I'm going to stay with, Two-Face? It just didn't resonate. And it would have been stronger if Katy Holmes had have come back. Or at the very least, they had have found someone even approximating Katy Holmes' level of sweetness. There's many things you can say about, how great Maggie Gyllenhaal is as an actress. But one thing, she doesn't have a sweet quality about her. She's got more of a catty, sassy, vivacious quality about her, and that is not what that character needed. That character needed to be sweet, girl next door, girl you'd take to your mother. Bruce wishes he could take to his parents as the girl they would be happy with him being with forever. That is the type of girl you were looking for the role. The complete opposite of the girls that Bruce Wayne parades around, to show off his billionaire playboy side. So that's my argument, my hot take for Hot Takes Tuesday. Maggie Gyllenhaal, not as good or well suited to the Rachel Dawes role as, in fact, Katy Holmes. Hope you enjoyed this episode of With Enough Prep Time. Please, or Hot Takes Tuesday. Please like, subscribe, and please discuss and anything. And tell me some of your hot takes. Do you agree with my hot take Tuesday episodes today? And tell me some of your hot takes. Do you? If you have any, and I might discuss them down with you, and maybe I agree with some and might even do a video on some. But thank you very much. Have a lovely rest of your day. Like, subscribe, comment. Hot Takes Tuesday.